Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Nick Thompson. You may know me from Netflix Love is Blind, but on this podcast, we sit down with guests from all walks of life to hear their story, remove stigmas, and uncover what makes them tick. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Conversations with Nick Thompson. I am your host, Nick Thompson. Today's guest is going to be a fun one. Today, I have Jacob Lucas, who's a professional dating coach, joining us today for a conversation on everything dating. Jacob is someone that I connected with online after initially seeing him on another podcast, but he's a professional dating coach and the author of a new book called Her Dating Coach, which you can find the link in the description. So as I sit here now, focused on rebuilding myself and really pushing myself to start thinking about dating again, I wanted to talk to Jacob about what it's like out there because things have changed a lot in the last few years since I've been out there dating. And I'm really curious to pick his brain a little bit about what he sees with his clients, how he views dating as a whole, talk a little bit about his book, but get some points and tips as I prepare to think. Let's just say I will prepare to think about getting back out there into the dating scene. So maybe we'll have a nice conversation and that will change some things. But Jacob is excellent follow on social media. He's always giving good dating advice through his posts. And I am super excited to talk to him on this episode. And we're going to dive into every single thing dating, how we should be approaching it. What are some etiquette things? We'll talk a little bit about ghosting, but ultimately how communication plays a role in dating. And we'll get right into that. So without further ado, let's get to Jacob and my conversation about dating. Today we have Jacob Lucas, who is a professional dating coach and the author of the new book, Her Dating Coach. So thank you for coming on today. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure being on. I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I'm excited to talk everything dating, everything
too.
Relationships, and pick your brain and find out how the heck you ended up in this this type of role.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. It's, any questions you have, you fire them over, and I'm happy to answer it.
Awesome. But before we do that, let's get to know you a little bit better. I got a couple small talk questions of the day for you, starting with, what is your favorite place that you've traveled?
Favorite place I've traveled? I would probably say it's either, we were talking about this before, weren't we? Rome or Wales, funny enough. It sounds really weird. Wales, you wouldn't think of it too much, would you? But the countryside is immaculate. Like, it's beautiful.
Oh, wow.
So I recently stayed with my girlfriend over Christmas in this little lodge. We went walking over in the valleys, like in the four waterfalls. That place is amazing. No one ever, it's like a complete gem, hidden gem. No one ever talks about Wales. Go there. It's the best place, like for beauty. 100%.
I've never heard anyone say Wales before.
Yeah.
Ever. Not even just on the show, ever.
Yeah, my girlfriend, she'd never been to Wales. And I said, look, we need to, because she's American. So I was like, we need to go to Wales, check it out. And it's her favorite place, one of her favorite places in the world now. And it's like, it's the food's good, the people are nice. It's unrivaled like scenery. It's perfect. It's so nice, but like it's good for like a weekend, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah,
that's what it is. What about you?
I would say I loved Rome, just for the history and the food. I also really loved Croatia.
I've never been,
and I think,
I've heard it's nice.
Oh my God, it's beautiful, and it just feels like it's a capsule in time. Because they filmed some Game of Thrones there, and it's just, I mean, it's just beautiful. Food, fine. People, fine. But just beautiful oceans, beautiful scenery, lots of hills. It was just so cool. It was just such a cool and relaxing experience.
I've got to check that out. I want to go to Crete. I like, the whole of Europe. I've never been there, so I think that might even be next on my list. So
I would highly recommend it. So what is your favorite food that you've ever had traveling?
Favorite food I've had traveling
or meal?
or meal. Well, it kind of counts. It's in my home country of England, right? It's
Okay.
unrivaled. You cannot beat the English roast dinner. I don't care what anyone says. You ever had that?
I have not.
It's. I've been around different places in the world. The roast dinner in England is by far the best of the best. You get like food in Rome, which is incredible. You get food in New York, which is nice, whatever. But you get a roast dinner, go to the old fashioned pub, get the gravy and stuff, and it is the best food you're ever going to meet. English haven't got many good dishes. That one is our speciality. 100%. 100%.
That sounds so good. I'm so hungry right now too. I haven't eaten yet today.
I don't make salad
there's
podcast.
right. When I spent 10 days in England a couple of years back, and everyone always says they're not known for their food, right?
No,
so it was, yeah. But I love fish and chips, and
really?
I do, yeah. It's like a cheat meal for me, but I'm also gluten free.
Yeah.
But my friends, like my friend that I went to visit, they had a place that on one day a week they did everything gluten free, and so I got to have fish and chips for like the first time in like 6 years. So maybe that's part of it, but I was just like, this is better than anything I've ever had before.
People really rate that's very traditional, isn't it? Very traditional English.
Yeah.
Next time you're there, though, go to an old pub. The thing is, usually the grimier the pub, the better roast dinner is. It's really weird. If you go to like a really posh place, it's not the same. Go somewhere a little bit seedy, and they just always make the most banging roast you ever have. Trust me on that one. Get the gravy as well.
I feel like that's the case here when you want like bar food. Like the divier the place, the better the food.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird how that works. It's maybe they're just not trying too hard, and that's the big difference.
Could be.
Okay, so since we were talking about this before we started recording, and I like to pound on New York, what do you think of New York's pizza?
I said we were talking about this. I didn't rate it that highly. I really did not rate it that highly. Like it is what it is. It's just like it's nothing special. Do you know what I mean? Like pizza in Rome is a complete different kettle of fish. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Right? And you're from Chicago, which is like famous for your pizzas. I didn't really rate New York. Like I said, it's more about the holes in the walls as opposed to traditional it's known for like bagels and all this stuff, and it's it's this big tourist trap as opposed to the actual good places in New York,
Yeah. Well, it's because Times Square, right? So everything around there is it's very touristy.
Yeah. Oh, we got everyone trying to sell you something crap.
Oh, that too.
Oh my days! It's like it's just there. Like you walk around a corner, there's someone trying to sell you something. But if you go to the outskirts of the tourist areas, you've got some amazing places. If you know where to go, it's really, really good. But like I was saying this before, my favorite place in New York is probably Koreatown. That is just super clean, super nice. People are super friendly. The food's good. It's just a different vibe, It's I like that. But then you've got like the Manhattan area, like Chelsea, Manhattan. Some really nice places there as well, but some very overpriced places. You've got to know where to go. 100%.
Of course. Have you been to Chicago?
No, I do want to go there. I would love to go.
You need to come.
Yeah. 100%.
That might need to beat out Croatia.
Yeah.
Because
I'm back in America soon, so I want to go around America a lot more than what I've been, so 100%.
Yeah. And you were saying earlier, I think this is fascinating. You travel to New York how often? You spend half your time?
Yeah, half time there. So I'm back there on April 19th, and I'll be staying there for a few months, and then come back to England, and say but I want to live in America, permanently be a nice goal with my missus kind of thing, because she's American, so she lives in New York. I live in England. Obviously, we won't live together. We're in love. We're happy, and it's kind of like I'd love to go there as opposed because it's just better over there, than it is where I am here.
If you say so. I love England.
It is. England's not the place to be right now. I'm telling you, it's not. It's not.
How did you two meet?
Instagram, funny enough, actually. So she started following my stuff, and she commented on a couple of my pictures or posts on dating coaching, And I'll be honest, I looked at her and thought, oh, she's hot. And then I dropped her a follow, and then literally started chatting. Like I liked a couple of stuff, and then slid to her DMs and whatnot. And then it just snowballed from there, really. And then she come to England, and I went to America, did it back and forth. And it just blossomed. It's like it's the most perfect relationship. Like I can't fault it in any way. It's like just super. I tell you what, the biggest difference, and I'm sure you've had it as well. It's extremely calm. Like a lot of people say arguments are healthy in relationships. I disagree. I think it's good to have disagreements and and be healthy to express your viewpoints and not get walked all over. But when we disagree, because obviously we do, we're human beings, we never ever raise our voices or anything like that. It's always a very calm, and we know it's going to get resolved very fast. Just very happy. I heard a really good quote actually from TikTok actually. A philosopher said, I can't remember which one. It's don't raise what was it? Raise your words, not your voice.
Yes.
Flowers grow from the rain, not thunder. And I was like, that's such a good quote for relationships about arguing. I was like, so fucking clever, isn't it?
It is really clever. You know what I kind of look at arguments, and this is of course after years and years of therapy, because I used to react. I used to just boom react, and I'm sarcastic, so it stings, and it's like, and I'm good at it. And I'm witty.
If you're sarcastic, you'd win in England all day long. That's what we're good at.
I get told all the time I have a British sense of humor. But what I realized was, through growth and stuff, is that if you look at an argument, you've got to look at it as separate than your relationship and something that you attack together, not something that you are looking to win. And I think that's where people get caught up. They don't listen. They wait to speak. They're not actually listening. And then they want to be right. But, I've always said this in my last, relationship. I don't want to fight about like these issues. I want to I don't care who wins and loses. I want to figure out what the underlying problem is so that we can address that so these things don't happen. But we have to do that together. It's not about being right or wrong.
That's fantastic.
I just don't think of them that way.
That's really insightful, actually. It's obviously a massive self-growth. So onto that, I read a lot of Aristotle, Plato's and all that. I read a lot of that stuff. And that's actually in Aristotle about anger. And when you said about winning, you're right. Mm-hmm. So Aristotle talks about anger, and I've always changed my way I look at the world and arguments from this quote. So he says, anger is a form of pleasure because victory, to feel victorious, is pleasurable. And the only reason you get angry is because you're trying to achieve superiority over that person. So if you have a discussion, let's say you like the colour blue or like the colour red, and we're having a proper discussion like normal adults or whatever. I like red because it's redder, you like blue because it's bluer. But if you started shouting at me and getting angry, like, no, blue's the best, like, why are you getting that? Like, you're trying to achieve victory over me. And if you get that victory, you will feel happier, right? Because anger is a form of pleasure. It's a tool to get pleasure. And ever since I saw that, and whenever you see someone argue, you're thinking, you're just trying to be superior. And you're trying to get a pleasurable sense of being over this person instead of having a conversation and working through it,
That's actually really well said. I had never thought of it that way, but that makes perfect sense.
Aristotle's the best dating coach in the world. It sounds ridiculous. No, it does. It sounds mad. I tell so many people this, but everyone ignores me. I don't know why. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, all this stuff, they are the best people I've ever read about. I've read the doctors, I've read this, I've read that. Nobody touches them. They are the best at the whole relationship, how to handle stuff. They're cleverer than me and you will ever be. They're cleverer than anyone's ever going to be these days. It's just because they have nothing to do but think,
I know. And that's one of the things I know we talked briefly on social media or about social media right before we recorded. But that's one of the things I think is so damaging about things like social media is you don't reflect. And I always tell people, you got to detox from technology and give yourself space to think. It's the same with jobs. You're at a corporate job, it's just expected output, but no one takes time to get off of a Zoom meeting and reflect and think, what did I learn from this exchange? What needs to come out of this? How can I be better? you don't get any of that anywhere in the world anymore. You've
Yeah,
got
but
to like really carve your time out for
you,
it.
you ever thought about being a therapist? Legit.
I haven't. I just finished my website yesterday, but I've been doing some like self-care kind of coaching pro bono to see if that's something I want to do. So I am going to try and do that probably next week. See if I can get some folks.
100%, man. I can see, like, it sounds really stupid, but when I'm talking to people, I can tell if someone's a knobhead or not straight away. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's the way you talk. You ask questions, you listen, you wait for the person to finish, you respond well, and you're clearly intelligent and you're insightful in what you're saying. And I'm like, not many people have that gift. You know what I mean? That's probably like
it's learned. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate you saying that because it is a learned skill. I didn't do any active listening. I responded, I reacted, I meandered. I didn't know what I was doing day to day. I didn't have a plan. And then all of a sudden, like I started going to therapy and I started to see, oh my God, here's some patterns that I have. Here's I don't listen very well. I do always try to be right. Like I do all these things and I've learned them. But man, does it take time and man, does it take work. And just you're constantly tested and being pushed by others to like take you back to I say like an unhealed version of yourself.
Yeah.
Where, and that was the thing that was like happening in my relationship was I realized I was going back to being irritable. I was losing my calm. I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do to make myself feel good so that I could show up healthy to work, show up healthy to relationship, show up healthy with friends. Like it was slowly eroding away. And I just remember like I started getting like irritable and short and reacting again. And I was just like, whoa, like I worked way too hard to go back to being
It's so interesting saying this because, like, in your 20s, because a lot of people, I think that people in their 20s, like especially late 20s, are not very malleable. Whereas young 20s, you are malleable, and it's kind of like you've been molded sort of thing into like different person if like you change. And it's quite rare, like you said, like the older you got, the more you change. That's a fucking rarity. It doesn't happen very often. An 18-year-old might be able to change. It's like if somebody's like lazy by nature, they're going to be lazy. If they've been lazy by nature till they're like 27, for example, they're going to be lazy forever, 9 out of 10 times, you know. Whereas if someone's like wants to do something, just doesn't know how to do it, so they're inactive. It's a different. They can change because they have a mentality. But for you to say you used to be a very irritable person and you changed because you actively took those steps, that is what makes someone a fucking very good therapist. Because again, funny enough, this is in Socrates or Plato. Sorry, it's to be like the best doctor, the best therapist, whatever it is, right? You have to have gone through that shit before yourself to be the best.
That's exactly it.
Mate, you got the fucking path. You got the path to fucking take it.
I know. It's funny too. My therapist. So when I was like starting to like pro bono coach some people, I reached out and asked, and I was telling her like I have major imposter syndrome. Like I don't know, if I should be doing this. I don't know what my qualifications are. And she's just like, you've been through some shit. She's like, everyone who's in a therapist or coach, like they've gone through some shit and you don't have to have it all figured out yourself, but you've got to know how to guide other people to figure it out for them.
Well, my mother is, she's top tier. You can't get more fucking top in the UK than what she is in a therapist. She's actually got an IQ of genius, right? Which is interesting. It makes me look like a baboon, honestly. But it's there like, she says the best therapist she's ever met have been through some shit. Like you can if you're life dedicated obsessed, but usually it's the best ones have been through stuff. Like I completely wholeheartedly agree. Like you can't, let's say someone's really depressed, it's a tough place to be, and it's like how can you identify personally with somebody who's not been, you can help them through textbook lingo, but once you've been through it, you can go through it more. It's like the boxer, I don't know if you know him too well, it's Tyson Fury. Heard of him?
Oh yeah, I know Tyson. Yeah.
He was going through some really bad mental health, and when he talks about it, I guarantee that helps a lot more people than a lot of it's about 50% of therapists out there, because he's fucking been there and he's overcome it, and it's so raw, It's like myself, I suffer with a lot of anxiety, a lot. It's horrific, And
I'm sorry.
no, it's a blessing in disguise in a weird way, because whenever someone feels anxious, I know exactly how to help them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, well, I wouldn't be as good at my job if I didn't go through that weird, horrible shit, you know? It's
Right,
tough.
exactly.
Yeah, you
Well,
got it in you,
it's
man.
like you can't be an addiction counselor if you haven't either suffered with addiction or been
Yeah.
incredibly close to someone, because you're right, the textbook stuff isn't it isn't it's going to only take you so far. And for me, like I know I've been through some stuff, but like I've suffered from depression since I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Tough.
And I didn't know what it was until high school. I didn't know why I felt that way or had these thoughts. And, the more I learned with it and the more I explored it, and the more I learned to like live with it and what I need to be successful, despite it. It's those tools are so helpful in the people that I want to help. And a lot of it for me was like self-care. So that's why I'm so vocal, and I use my platform to talk about self-care, because I realized the reason that I was so irritable, the reason that I was so frustrated with my life, the reason I was unhappy was because I wasn't doing things to stimulate my brain. I didn't put boundaries around people. So I'd have people sucking, energy, and I would be around the wrong people. Some of that includes family. So it would be, every weekend I'd go hang out with my family, and that wasn't good for me, because they're all, walking on eggshells. And it's like, that's not the life I want to live. So like, you move yourself away from some of the things that aren't meant for you. You do the things that help you feel good and help you feel like you can show up as your best self in the world. And self-care isn't going shopping or buying something nice or going to the spa. It can contribute to it. But what's behind that is you need to take time for yourself so that you can recharge. And learning how to do that and removing myself from other situations that aren't meant for me, that don't help me, they only hurt me. I don't want to be in conversations gossiping. I don't want to be, maybe about a TV show or something, but like otherwise, like I want to have meaningful conversations like, we're having. I want to go talk about how we can change the world, or talk about how we can destigmatize mental health or make it more accessible, all of that stuff. And that all is really just from my own life experience.
But you got to think like your life experience. Let's say someone listening to the podcast right now and you talk about, depression you've been through, which I've never had depression, but I imagine it's horrifically tough. And I do sympathize for everyone who's gone through it. Me
too.
It's super, super tough, place to be. But if your podcast or when you talk about it just helps one person, it's the most successful podcast in the fucking world. I generally think that, like, if I make a video and put out, and it's about, someone's boyfriend doing this, and it helps that one person, it's a perfect video, And it's kind of like,
I agree.
It's definitely the right mentality. Like you said about the whole, it's not about buying things and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Social media is fucking rammed down our throat. You need to be a 6-figure earning man. Hardly anyone's a fucking 6-figure earning man. It's like 1%, you know what I mean? The amount of, like, pressure guys feel about that. Like, you see, like, it's always the idiots as well saying it. Like, I need a guy that's a 6-figure earning man. And it's like, well, first of all, what do you bring to the fucking table? And it's like, secondly, it's like, when a young man walks out, let's say he's 25, and he's like, I'm never going to earn that. Because 99% of people don't, because that's a very unrealistic standard for everyone in society to have. Yeah. The economy will crumble effectively anyway. And it's kind of like, that guy watching that just feel terrible. But anyway, my original point would be, when you say you don't need the material stuff, you don't need that and this and that. So like, wealth isn't about how much you have. It's about being happy with how little you have,
Yeah, that's such a good... such a good line. I know. So this is a good, I have to ask this question because I ask everyone now, but I'm curious. So you are a professional dating coach.
Yeah.
I am curious, what did you want to be when you were a kid? How did you grow up? How did that change? And then how did you end up where you are now?
Oh, blimey. That's like an odyssey, man. So when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be a boxer fighter. I was a professional boxer for a little bit of period of time. Wasn't very good. Yeah, that's when my nose is destroyed. If you look at it, it's like probably like this. All my videos are inverted because my nose looks like really weird. It's horrible. Yeah, it's been broken many times. I used to be a professional boxer. And I've always studied psychology, like probably since the age of 18. I'm 30 years old now. Always found that fascinating. And when you're a young man, you want to learn the psychology of attraction, don't you? Because you want to get a girlfriend. You're like, okay, whatever. So you start reading that stuff and watching the videos. And I've got a very OCD personality. Like everyone who works with me goes, "You're fucking OCD," but it's a good thing to have in business. I genuinely think it's a good
I have
thing
it
to have.
too. Yeah.
And it's kind of like it gives you real fucking obsessiveness. And it's there like, I watched just a stupid amount, read a stupid amount. Anyway, so I was doing that all throughout my whole life, effectively, but like on the side. And then got into boxing, did all this and did all that. And then stopped boxing. I wasn't very good. I was a good amateur, not a good professional. Anyway, it's a different world. It's very tough living that. Anyway, so I stopped doing that. And then finally, I got horrifically ill, really bad, where I thought I was going to die, like really bad.
Oh my gosh. What was it?
It was just a horrific virus, wiped my body out. It just destroyed my body. Even to this day, I'm healthy now, but I'm very careful. I can't do certain things. You know what I mean? Be very careful about my life. I can live like a normal person, but like, you know, like normal, whatever you classify as normal, but I got to be very careful about everything. One bad move and I'm out for a week.
So anyway, were you like super careful with COVID then? Were you worried about that?
Oh yeah, well, it was during just before COVID. That's when I got very ill. So I was stuck in the house anyway. I couldn't move off the sofa for about 6 months. I sat there like I'm gonna die effectively. Yeah, terrible.
Oh my God.
And that was tough. I got no help. My mum was the only one to help me. Everyone else it's a horrific scenario, mate. It really was. And
I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're okay though. That sounds awful.
It was
6 months.
You know what? It's like. That's why rock bottom is beautiful, because you can only go up, mate. You know, it really is. It's like rock bottom is the fucking greatest place on earth. I'm telling you, because you got.
You know, I always say too. I'm on a never-ending quest for rock bottom. That's what I've been saying lately.
Yeah,
I won't stop till I get there.
Yeah, like rock bottom is fucking glorious, mate. Yeah. So I was in a horrific scenario with lots of different things. Like I had fuck all money. I was broke. I couldn't afford bread, sort of broke. I was very lucky my parents helped me out a little bit, because I would have been homeless, mate. I had like a failed professional boxing career, if you will. But there's always this thing. I was always fucking good at psychology and the art of attraction. I always was better than everyone else I knew. Does that make sense? And I thought, you know what? I'm fucking going to die anyway. So it was literally like this. I'm going to be dead, mate. I don't give a fuck about this. I'm just going to do what I've always wanted to do. I'm going to put my stuff out there. And if it helps, it sounds really cliche, but it's like, if I can help somebody else get a partner and fall in love by knowing what I know, that's enough for me. Because if I die, fuck it, at least I help someone else have a nice life, you know?
Yeah.
And then I started putting my stuff out there online. And it's like, when you first start making videos, you're really stiff, really awkward, it's hideous. And you're like, hello. Terrible, right? I started putting my stuff out there, but all the information was good. And people go, this is amazing, this works. I've tried this, it's really worked for me, X, Y, Z. And I was like, this is cool, man. And then it just grew. People wanted to book me in as a dating coach. It started growing like that. Podcast, TV,
so you weren't even trying to become? Were you trying to be a dating coach then, or were you?
Not specifically. It was like I
fell into
dating coach. Like I was a dating coach, helping people. You know what I mean? But it's there like it really was. I'm going to just exude my knowledge of psychology of attraction. I mean, that's all it was basically, and then it just grew from there. And everyone's just like, this fucking works, because I think. The thing is then I got OCD about that. I was like, right, every day, boom, 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 like study day, boom, 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 and then you got all that stuff, and then it's kind of come to what it was now. So it's because the reason I got it is I had fuck all else to lose, so I always did what I wanted to do, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like I had nothing to lose. I was gonna die. It was like, what's the point? I was like, I remember falling upstairs, I couldn't move, and you watch my old videos. You won't be able to see it, but I was like, I'll do a video. We chat like this, like, okay, 3 ways to make your boyfriend more attracted to you. Do the video, go sit on the fucking floor, and I was just like crumble on a fucking ball.
And that was it.
I was like so ill, like, okay, I'm going to throw up now. I'm going to throw up, as in like, do you know what I mean? Whatever it was. But people don't see that, you know? And it's just a horrific scenario. Anyway, it got better over time, and then everything grew. Now I'm like one of the biggest on TikTok and all that stuff. And it's there like, it was good, but I think people really liked it because it was very fucking real stuff that works in real life. You know, it's very, I say this a lot. People make it too clinical, like relationships and dating. You've got to add like a clinical aspect, but it needs to be real and attractive. You know, like some people like say, oh, sit down with your boyfriend, explain this and that to him. They're not going to fucking listen. It's not going to happen, you know? So it's kind of like you need to like, the biggest thing about all of that stuff is, I'm waffling so much, I'm sorry. But the biggest thing about that stuff is about like framework and going into deep framework and stuff like that. And it's really like social interactions. And that's how you make someone attract you effectively, is through framework and different things like that. And I implement that in my videos, but like in a different way. And it's just, yeah, it just fucking works, mate. That's probably the best way to describe it, you know? So yeah, that's
yeah, that's great. And I think too, you're probably, I mean, we're in this weird time where you can meet your significant other through Instagram, right?
Yeah.
As you did. And with social media and social interactions and everything that happened during COVID, I feel like people don't really know how to date. They don't really know how to balance the virtual, balance the real life, balance the texting, balance the Instagram, the TikTok, all the social media. There's so much going on. And this is why I thought Love is Blind was a good idea, was because I was like, it eliminates all the distractions that stop people from focusing on getting to know someone and see if they would make a good partner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right.
And that I think is just so relevant now, because we're living different than we were 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
I think you're right. I think there's so much information getting thrown at people. It's again like that's like the whole Love is Blind. It's brilliant because you don't have this. You don't have to go onto their Instagram page or whatever. You know, it's just there like having a conversation like you would back in 1500. You know, do you like me? Do I like you? Yes. You got the thing about the whole Love is Blind, which is really good. I'm sure you agree. Is you get to know someone better because obviously you can't see them, but it takes away the outside world of the whole social values, because social values is a very big thing of attraction, isn't it? You know, you take that away because they can't see you with your friends, they can't see you at your job, they can't see this, so they're going to fall for you. So like all the like preconceptions of what is attractive doesn't fucking exist anymore. You know, it's just what you are, which is why it's a good reason. You know, but you're right, I think it's too much information of people. I think you got this person saying this person saying that. At the end of the day, it's like it's too much from people's brains, too much from my brain, and it's like they get stuck. It's like they're inactive because they don't know what direction to go effectively, which you cannot blame.
Causes paralysis. Yeah, it's like a mental paralysis.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. So how did you? So that's a great story. I didn't expect that, to be honest, of how you became a professional dating coach. What is your, I mean, you mentioned you have frameworks. Like, what's your overall approach to dating? Like, what do you recommend? Maybe an overview of the framework. You mentioned the social constructs. I'm curious, just what's your view?
So in every single, so it's interesting. So in every single act, it's basically like the Matrix, if you will. So like in every interaction is a framework, right? And it's how you deliver yourself in that framework. So let's say me and you were dating, right? And you text me, and I instantly text you back. You wait 2 hours to text me back, then you do. I instantly text you back. I'm in your frame. That makes sense? I'm giving you more value than you're giving me. If I double text you, I'm giving you more value than what I am, because I'm chasing you effectively, right?
Right.
So my approach is it needs to be equal, but you need to come in just a little bit higher on that framework. So effectively, let's say, for example, if I asked you for a date and you said, I'm busy this weekend, I'm like, yeah, no problem. Whereas a lot of people are like, okay, are you busy? Are you okay to go on a date Monday or Tuesday? And I'm doubling up my questions on you, you know? Whereas
you start to overwhelm.
Yeah, effectively. I'm chasing you. Yeah. I'm coming from a lower frame. Then if you were like, I can't do this weekend, I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll leave it at that, you know? Yeah. And then you will have to then come to me, because then you need to balance that power back out a little bit. So it needs to be back on equal framework, you know? So you'd be like, oh, I might not text you for like till you text me back or whatever. And you say, oh, I can do Monday. Cool, let's go on a date Monday. So then you're kind of chasing me a little bit then. If that makes sense, because you're the one asking me. This is something a lot of clinical people don't talk about when they talk about dating. They say stuff like, you need to be communicate your emotions honestly and openly. That's fantastic, right? I agree
But
with
that's
that.
got to be mutual.
Yeah, but it's got to be like in that dating phase, you got to play the game a little bit or you're going to get played. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of people go, I don't want to play games. Yes, I agree. Playing games can be immature. But at the same time, if you're chasing somebody who's playing a game with you, you're in a game, you don't fucking realize it. And you're losing.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And you've got to decide if you want to play the game or walk away. And I think that's where
Exactly.
people don't. And I say this to my friend, friends all the time, but a friend a long time ago, like probably 6-7 years ago. She was younger, in this exact situation that you're saying. And I was like, you know what? When a guy likes you, you'll know, because you won't have to chase like that.
100%.
He will respond to your text. If he needs to reschedule plans or cancel plans, he will reschedule them. That's the difference, is when you tell if a guy actually likes you or if they're playing a game. And I had another friend just a couple weeks ago that met a guy on Hinge. And do you guys have Hinge over there?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
we
okay.
have Hinge, yeah.
Yeah.
I live in the Antarctic, right?
You guys got internet over there?
Yeah.
You got apps? Like, and he was, oh, I'll come drive to you. And then it was all of a sudden, oh, I can't do this weekend. Can you come by me next weekend? I'm like, totally like pulled you in and then spun you in a chair and was like, now you've got to come all the way to me for the next few weeks if we're going to date because I have stuff going on.
Yeah,
what?
that's just a classic love bomber, isn't it? Like that's just I'll tell you what. There's more sinister. There's more sinister trace to this actually. Funny enough, and it's kind of like it's called emotional spiking. Emotional spiking can be done in a real nice way and can be done in a fucking villainous way, really bad. So effectively, the whole love bomber thing gives someone loads of attention, get the emotions nice and high, so they're then associated with positive emotions, or rip that away from them. And they hit the lows. And they're like, why doesn't this person want me? Why doesn't this person want me? I want to validate myself for them. And then what happens is they create a dynamic of getting addicted. So like a gambler, they don't give a fuck about the money gamblers. A real serious gambling problem doesn't care about the money. They care about the highs and lows of winning. That's exciting to them. And it's kind of like...
At the expense of money. That's why they give their cars and their houses and other savings up. Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's kind of like the love bomber, if you will come in and they'll be like, right, sort these emotions high and low, and then that person is not addicted so much to the high romance, if you will. Yeah, it's like they're addicted to that person's feeding them that emotion. It's like gambling is one of the most serious addictions in the world because of the dopamine or whatever it is in the brain, whatever chemical it is in the brain goes up and down. And it's kind of like, and then you're fucking fixated on that person, and they're villainous, mate. They do it in a way. It creates a dynamic of control. The love bomber then controls that person, and it's kind of like, and then you're like, you see a woman.
Narcissistic characteristics too.
Yeah. So then you'll see a woman, for example, who's like, the guy is an absolute prick. I come across this so much. You don't care if I swear, do you? You want to show?
No.
Yeah.
We're uncensored here.
The guy's a horrible fucking character, and you're like, why is she chasing him when she could do so much better, And it's kind of like the whole thing of Will Smith and Jada Smith?
Jada Pinkett Smith, yeah.
I'm not a fan of her, mate. Let's put it like this. Will Smith has been, he is had those ups and downs so much, and he keeps running back or whatever it is, right? And I'm 99.9% sure that's why, And it's you watch this man, like, you could have any woman you want in America. Why are you going after this woman who treats you like crap? Happens to so many people in the world, and it's kind of like, it's just, if Will Smith watches this, leave your missus. There's no point, man. There's no point. You could do so much better.
you should see if you can slide into his DMs and grab him as a client.
Give him a help. Send my business card.
No, I totally agree with that, and I'm guilty of like being in those situations where, you're riding the highs and you know how good it can be, but then the downs, and then you're just like, but we can get to highs, but no, there's always going to be the downs. Yeah. And I think, and I'm biased in a weird way, but I think men are so out of touch with what they actually want that they project what they think they want or what someone tells them they want. and they can't be
Yes.
honest about it. And that's how those things happen. But then over time, you as an individual, you build this habit, and now it's your pattern, and you're sitting there, and it's all because you don't know what you want. And I know
You're probably the first person I spoke to, apart from like immediate people, who said that exact thing. It's very insightful. I completely agree. Like, you got to think, so many young men, they don't have a good role model. They don't have a role model to look up to, And it's kind of like,
well, especially our generation, because our parents are like traumatized and all
it's like,
up.
It's, if you think about it, like, I always think, like, I was very fortunate. My parents are very nice people. I was very fortunate, but not everybody's in the same boat. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's kind of like what raises those people is media, effectively, and now it's more social media. And the absolute load of crap that comes out on social media about what you should want in a relationship and this and that is very conflicting with everything else and different, like, good values that people don't. You're right. People are sat there like, I don't know what I want. Maybe I should be a player. Maybe I should settle down. Maybe I should, go around and shag loads of women and then settle down. It's there like, it's fucking dumb, because they don't get taught, like, okay, why would you not want to find a real nice girlfriend, for example, and settle down with her? Why would you want to go through 50 women who aren't good for you and then go to that girl at the end? What's the point of that? Why don't you get
so that you can bring some trauma into the relationship? Show up with some baggage.
My fucking my baggage, and then bring it upon this poor girl who doesn't deserve that shit.
Yeah. I think I went through that, which was like in my 20s. I had 3 long relationships, and I kind of, like, I always say, like, meandered around, and I was in these relationships and they were fine. They were not fine in some cases, but I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew it wasn't that. And then I went through a stage where I was kind of a player, and I was playing the game. And that was what I realized the game. Like, I learned the game, and I'm like, I can control this. And I would do the love bombing and the not texting back and the, you know what? I'm going to make you wait. I'm going to marinate you. I would call it. I'm going to let you marinate.
Do you know what? It takes a big man to admit this.
Oh, thank you. Because
it does.
I'm embarrassed, and I did an apology tour once I, figured my shit out, and I said to some of them, and I'm like, I'm sorry I did that, because it's not nice. It's cruel.
Mate, there needs to be more people like that, and like yourself, in the world, because I don't fucking have to. Like, I tell you what, I have to take me back a little bit, because that's usually quite conflicting when people do like love bomb and stuff. It's very fucking rare to ever apologize for it, and they won't be aware of it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For you to do that,
oh yeah,
that's you've done some serious fucking self-reflection and some help, and self-help there. Respect to you, mate. Honestly, because
thank you.
I don't think I've come across that very often in my whole fucking career. So,
well, it's a lot of work, and now I can't even imagine dating. I don't think I have any interest in it. But one thing that I've really learned that I feel has helped me coming out of that is I learned the 3 things that I need in a relationship, because it took me having the relationship that I didn't know I wanted to figure out what I actually needed. Yeah. And it's first and foremost, it's trust. And I don't mean trust in the, you're going to cheat on me. Like, that's part of it. But like, trust in the sense that, like, I'm always going to be respectful of the relationship, and you're always going to be respectful of the relationship. Trust that we know it's there, and that we're in this together. And then one of the other ones is quality time, which is my number 1 love language. I just want time with that person, and I need that. And we need to be sometimes watching a movie or a show, sometimes going on a date, whatever that might be. And then stability is the other one. Like, I need steady. Yeah. I know, like we talked about earlier, there will be disagreements, but I don't want to be sent back to that place where I'm irritable, where I'm frustrated all the time, where I'm walking on eggshells. I never want to be feeling like that again. And so stability is so important to me, to know that it's okay to disagree, but this is still here. The foundation is still there. Yeah, and that's so hard to find, but it also gives me the like lens to view. I'm not getting those things. I need to walk away.
Oh, I think that's free perfect. The thing is, it's really good things, but it's also the bare minimum of a healthy relationship. Like
I know.
trustability and X, Y, Z. It's all that's like. I think that's really healthy way of approaching things. I think that's really good. Really like. I think so many people like get into looking for that in a relationship, yet they don't deliver that themselves, and they expect the other
Mm.
person to kind of have it happen, but it doesn't, or they stay there and try to change that person so they could get it. So let's say, for example, you want stability where somebody is being unstable in a relationship, for example. Instead of walking away, they think, okay, I'm going to try and change this person. Fuck that. Like, there is no point. Like I said, it's very rare that your character that is a changed character. Never happens in a past a
It's
certain stage. Never happens. So,
no.
like, a lot of people stay there like, I can change this guy, I can change this girl. And you can't. You cannot fucking change people like that. You have to do it all themselves. So it's
Yep.
super interesting that you have that mentality.
Yeah, I mean it's been reinforced with the last couple of years, but it's so important to know that, and then also to come from a place of empathy and compassion for people because people have been hurt.
Mm.
But one thing I find, and actually, let me ask you this, and then I'll say that coming from compassion to know people have had relationships just like you that haven't worked out the way you wanted them to. Some
Yeah.
of them were great, except something was missing. Some of them were probably pretty toxic. But to look at someone that you want to date or you're going to start dating, like I think you have to do it with a little bit of compassion to realize they've got walls up too. They've got
Yeah.
trauma that they're healing. They've got pain that they're hiding and they're working through. And so show some people some compassion. But what is like the number one or a couple things that you're seeing consistently in the dating world that is just like awful, like something that needs to change or something that we need to work on as a collective single people trying to date?
You know what? The biggest problem about the dating now is, well, it's ubiquitous. Really, it would have been forever. But it's superiority and ego. It doesn't fucking leave society. You know what I mean? We're talking
Mm,
about the whole argument thing, weren't we? Is people need to feel like dominant in the relationship as opposed to equal. They need to feel like a certain superiority over their partner. So basically, the best way of looking at it is me, not us, us, us. You know what I mean?
mm,
Whereas I think when you go into a relationship, you should see it as a team. So, for example, a lot of people, it's really unfortunate, but I come across this sort of thing a lot, is people want to be made to feel special, but they don't want to make someone else feel special. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you
You
mean.
laugh at that. You've been
Yeah.
through that yourself, like with people
Oh
before.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And I'm a fixer and I like to bring other people up. And so I get sucked into that. I can get sucked into that.
Yeah. So it's kind of like if you're somebody who wants to bring people up, which I'm sure many people who listen to this are, it's very demoral. I used to be the same as well. It's very demoralizing. I say used to be. I do want to help people and bring them up, but I don't get upset by what doesn't happen back. So I'm sure
Mm,
you had it when your career started growing or whatever. You got a bit more popular, X Y Z. People they're not happy for you, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? And you
hmm.
smile because I'm right, right? So they're not happy
Oh, I
for you.
know.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, but these kind of people get into relationships as well. So when, like, for example, their partner gets promotion, he should be over the moon. He should be really happy, but they don't. They look at their partner and be like, "Oh, good. Now it makes me look like shit." You know what I mean?
Right. They leveled up
Yeah.
like and left me. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it makes me look like crap. So my missus, for example, my girlfriend, I keep saying missus, that's such an English thing to say. My girlfriend, for example, she's very high up in her career. She earns significantly more than me, for example, you know what I mean? And it's they're like, I love that. I'm like, mate, fucking that's amazing. Good for you. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Whereas, let's say, for example, something happened amazing to her at work. I'm like, let's go out, let's have a drink, let's have a celebration. A lot of people don't do that. They go home, they sit down, like, oh, honey, I got a promotion at work, or this happened at work. They're like, all right, that's cool. And it's kind of like,
Right.
fuck you, man. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's kind of
Yeah,
like,
totally.
yeah. And it's like they don't like that. That's one of the biggest problems I see is that sort of stuff. And probably the second thing to answer your question is like the machinations in the early stages. The whole people being deceitful, and it's kind of like, I don't mean to sound a little bit, like on the woman's side too much, so like having an unbiased view, but it does tend to be that men seem to be a little bit more deceitful than women in the early stages. I don't know why that is, but it's what I'm coming across a lot. Like, it's kind of like they're like, oh, they go and phone another girl on Instagram, and what happens is it makes their partner feel very insecure. I'm not talking about they're following friends from work. That's fine. I'm about like people who just thirst traps. And it's like, and then they go, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? No, it doesn't mean anything.
Gaslighting.
And they try to flip it on its head, and they're like, they're texting other people at the same time. This is men and women at this point now. Texting other people at the same time, and it's kind of like, why can't you just be happy with what you got? You know what I mean? Just grow what you have, as opposed to, why are you always looking for new pastures when you have something great in front of you,
Yeah. Well, and people don't take the time to get to know someone. I remember, so I've always, until my little 1.5 year long phase of being not my best self, I would never like date or talk to more than one person at once until I knew that it wasn't going to go any further.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
If I've made a date on a dating app, I might be talking to other people or whatever, but unless that date's a month away, which is not the case, I'm going to go on that date because that's the furthest along, and I owe that person, I believe, or at least my, the way I operate is I owe that person the opportunity to get to know me, and I owe them the respect that I'm getting to know them. And if you spend that time, and then I'm clear, I mean, it's been a while since I've dated now, but I'm clear either at the end of the date or over text message or whatever, and say, I had a really good time. I'd love to do this again. Or I had a really good time. You're awesome. I'd love to be friends with you. I had a really good time. You're awesome. I think we should go our separate ways. And just be clear about it.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice thing to do. A lot of people leave people in limbo, don't they? Like, did he like me? Did he not? Is he not going to text me back? And it's there like, but that's fantastic. Like, you're doing that.
I know.
Like, it sounds really stupid. That's the basics, though, isn't it? But a lot of people
it is the basics. No. And I think the thing with men too, and by the way, and I have a whole lot of thoughts on women are not off the hook because they do.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, they play the game.
Yeah,
but I think at the beginning, again, with the men, it's because they don't really know what they want, because they think maybe they want a girlfriend or they're trying to get married, but they also want to go, fuck everything they possibly can because hormones, instinct, whatever you want to, they're pigs, whatever you want to say. So the fact that they don't know what they want, I think, is what causes the games. And I think it's what causes the love bombing. It's what causing, because if you know what you want and you meet someone and they're not what you want, you can walk away.
Yeah, 100%. That's healthy growth, isn't it? Like, if you're on a date with someone, like a lot of people, like, for example, is, actually, let me change my answer, is that the biggest problem I've found in dating is, I call it the insurance policy. I don't know what I should have fucking make a video about this. It's the insurance policy thing. So a lot of people, what they do is they'll be dating somebody who they think in their head is like, let's say like they like them a 7 out of 10, right? They're like, okay, this person's okay for now. And then they will ghost them a little bit, and then they go chat to other people and then come back to them when they can't get other people, And then that person's like, yes, that person wants me again. Then that person's a fucking arsehole, mate, and they're playing like a fiddle. You know what I mean? And they're like, I'd probably say it's the insurance policy, and they come back, but people fall for it. And I'm like, no, don't. You're better than that. Leave it. Let it go, So,
I think people just, they struggle because they want something and they want it to be a certain way, and it's not. But like you said, there's the highs sometimes. It's very messy, but I gotta ask you about your book, Her Dating Coach. You just released it. Tell me about your book. What prompted you to write it? What can people expect in it? What advice are you sharing? And the floor is yours.
The floor is mine. So the book is called Her Dating Coach. It's on video, isn't it? So I'll show you.
Yes.
So Her Dating Coach. So it's a beautiful design as well. It's a lady called Adriana Kloekner did that, and she Tigress Blue, her Instagram, and she's phenomenal artist actually. Anyway, so the book is called Her Dating Coach, and basically what it is a book that is basically your dating coach, right? So if you ask me a question about dating and you want to know something, usually look in a book, and 9 out of 10 times, or 99% of the time, the answer's going to be in there. So I broke it down to like simple bits, so it's not like long-winded. So for example, I got a section on red flags, for example, and it's like a paragraph or like a few paragraphs explaining what this is, why it happens, psychology behind it, onto the next one. I find a lot of books, they drag out the cause, where I'm like, boom, 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 no, this is what it is, this is what's happening. So you don't sit there lingering. Got loads of flirting techniques as well, like how to flirt on a date, first date tips. It's got stuff like the social dynamics of dating. It's got where to meet people. It's got how many chapters? It's got 20, 23, 24 chapters, like long distance relationships, how to be good at conversation, how to be more confident. Texting's a big one, social media. And it's basically the motivation to do it was basically because, I had so many people ask me to write a book. So I was like, I should do this anyway. And I was in New York. I was like, I should do this because, you never promise tomorrow, are you? And it's something I've always wanted to do. So then
good for you.
Grind that out. Like I said, because I have a bit of an OCD personality. I think to write a book, you have to have a little bit, don't you? Because you've written yourself, haven't you?
Totally. I write. I can obsess over every freaking word.
You have to. Because the thing is, you can't be like, okay, hours a day. No, you've got to dedicate a certain amount of time. And I released it yesterday. Was it just the day before?
I think it was Tuesday, if I remember correctly.
That's right. Yeah, it was Tuesday. Yeah. And the amount of people like ordering it's crazy. I had one lady actually message me. It's 250 pages, so it's a meaty book, and she's already finished it. And she goes, "I couldn't put the thing down," and I was like, "Wow, that's amazing!" That made me so happy. She went, she left a review, said it's very insightful and stuff. I was like, "That's so cool," and she was on my TikTok live, we're talking about it, and she goes, "It's my favorite section, X, Y, Z." And I was like, it sounds so satisfying because I know forever she's going to have that book and it's always going to help her,
That's awesome.
And that's what
it sounds about. Like it's, and people can reference back when they need it, when they find themselves in one of the situations that they've read about.
Absolutely. It's like, say if you're texting a guy and you're like, what should I do now? What should I say? Or what's the right thing to do in this scenario? Open a book, read it out, and it's in there. Or it could be like for example, I got a chapter dedicated to how to deal with a breakup, and it kind of talks about, why you can't forget somebody, and it explains that in more depth. And I think it's going to help.
If you could explain that to me, it would probably help.
So like, if I got,
I'm gonna pick up the book. It's in my cart.
I'll tell you what, it sounds really like weird, but once you write it, it's going to be good because when you write it, you don't think it flows out of you. Did you have that of your book?
It does. It just kind of flew out. So like it's more of like a guided journal, like I said, but I wrote in it too. And the reason that I came up with it was I hit rock bottom, and the date was December 22nd, 2022.
What happened?
And I was standing. I had going through a divorce. I got laid off from my job. I was pushing myself to like think differently. And this was the third time that I lost my job in corporate America. I'm 37 years old. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, this is not for me.
You say you're 37 years old?
Yeah.
You look well younger than that, mate.
Oh, thank you.
I thought you were 30.
No, 37.
Oh, make fair play. Whatever you're doing.
When you said that, I looked over there. I'm like, oh, I do look okay. It's funny because like I'm like broken out right now, so I feel like I look awful. But I just really try to take care of my skin.
Keep doing it, mate. Bottle it up and sell it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it just came out of me. I did it. I actually wrote the whole book in two days. But it was based on when I hit rock bottom. I was kind of shook. I had just done a very long interview with a psychologist about my experiences on Love Is Blind. And it was more so for like learning and writing and all that stuff for her. And I left that and I'm like, oh my God, like I am ignoring all of these things that have happened to me. And I'm just like powering through. And I just started feeling them. And so I was standing like literally like right here after that call. And I was like, oh my God, I have experienced some of the worst things in the last few months. And I've done it in the public's eye. And I don't have a job. I don't know if in 4 months I'm going to be homeless. I don't know if I'm going to lose my condo. I don't know. I mean, I was just like, oh my God. And I didn't have anything. And that's when I was like, I have to start putting these practices in that I know are good for me that I have stopped doing. So I started journaling every day again, which I've been journaling since I was like 5 or 6 years old. Because I write. And so that was,
I think that's fascinating because everyone watches reality TV at some point, and you kind of like identify the characters, you gossip about them or whatever.
Yeah.
But no one talks about like the after effects. But if you've got someone who was a reality TV person like yourself and talk about psychology, that's a fascinating fucking book actually to read. Like the actual inner thoughts of somebody after that, because you watch these shows, Love Is Blind, Married at First Sight, XYZ. Some people go through some tough stuff in there. I'm sure you did as well, right?
Totally.
And it's like, but no one thinks about what happens to their mentality after. That's a fucking fascinating book to read. Yes.
And I started journaling like 3 things I'm grateful for every day. I started so there were some tough times that I went through publicly where I had to I was really tested. Am I going to stay true to my character? And what are my core values? And I know what they are because I live by them. Yeah. It's authenticity, integrity, and intentionality. Those are my 3. Be intentional in what you do it with integrity, and always be yourself. And I was sitting there and I'm like, I have to start reminding myself every day that I live by these values. So it's like, how did I live by my values yesterday? What am I grateful for that happened? And I just started doing this every day. And so then I started putting in, I just started putting in the things that I was writing into this journal. And I shared, some of the things that was happening at the time, that like why these things are important to me. And I don't really talk a lot in this about the show and the mindset, but more so like how I started feeling better about myself again when I was at rock bottom. But there is definitely more to tell about how things changed.
I think like a great book idea for yourself. It's like a book pitch, like a great book idea for yourself. You ever read Marcus Aurelius' Meditations? Well, not before. So no. It's the Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He wrote a book, Meditations. I got it here somewhere, and it's small, like little. Like 4 lines, for example, each day, and you write it down. Very insightful stuff, like what happened in his day, but like he makes it a bit more poetic, if you will. So, like, this X, Y, Z. And it's kind of like, that'd be a fascinating thing because you've been on this self journey. You've been in this situation where everybody watches, but they never actually are in themselves, but they just spectate it. But then, like, it'd been really good if you did it straight after, actually, but it still could be good now. Is like to do like small, like 4 lines a day of a pure reflection, you know what I mean? Or just like a thought, your meditation of the day, do that for a year. That's 365 mini paragraphs. That's fascinating because in your mind,
what's funny is when I was in the pods, I journaled when I went back to my hotel room every day. I've shared like clips of them on social media, but I was going back. I'm like, how did I feel today? Who did I like? Who did I not like? How do I feel? And it was so helpful to go through that the whole time. I wish I would have done it the whole time.
Yeah, but that's fascinating. Like, I think, I honestly, I think that's a good idea. I think, like, just talking to you, like I said, I can usually get a good sniff of these sort of things because in the niche I do. You should be doing from what it sounds like. I think you would probably suit like a relationship counselor.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. It's funny. People do ask me on Instagram for relationship advice. I'm like, had to go on a reality show to get married and then got divorced. Like, Am I
Yeah.
the person that should be giving you advice?
You're the fucking perfect person. You know what I mean? 100%.
Maybe, yeah.
Because let's say
Maybe.
if like you've been through that, and then you know exactly what not to do effectively in certain points, or what to do in certain points, then that's what you need, isn't it? Like you can't climb the mountain without some rocky path. It's not going to happen.
That's
you know?
true. That's
Anyway,
true.
yeah. Back to the book thing. I can't remember what the original point was now. Like it was about breakups. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was about what's your one takeaway for breakups or hook to get people to pick up the book.
Hook to get people to pick up the book. I'll tell you what. If the hook to pick up the book, I always say it's all of it is real life advice that is going to generally work for you, but a bit of like a more intrinsic psychological or sociodynamic standpoint. But it's like. It's basically it's worded in a way it's very easy to understand, and I generally feel like it's easy to understand, but it's complex at the same time. But it's good and it's useful. Basically, you'll be able to use it in your real life scenarios very easily, and it's kind of like once you understand what to do, it becomes very easy. It sounds really arrogant, and I'm not just saying it myself, but I 100% guarantee. I have to say it's legally, of course, in my opinion, is the best dating guide you will ever get for a woman how to attract a man. I've read loads, and I've never even seen one come close to how good it is. So it's kind of like, it might sound biased from me, but that's for different people's opinions as well. And it's kind of like, I know for a fact, well, the thing is, like every bit of like psychology in there, whatever kind of thing, like some stuff is ubiquitous, it can use for all genders. Do you know what I mean? I've done all these things myself and it worked. So it's like, it's just stuff that's going to happen. You won't regret if you buy that book. You're not going to regret it. And people who already read that said it's perfect, really. So yeah,
that's great.
So that's what I was saying.
That's awesome. Well, let's let me toss over the ball to you and let you ask me any questions that you have.
First of all, I want to know: are you dating now?
I am not dating. I can't even. Especially after talking today, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about all the games. And so no, and to be honest, like, I don't even know how, I'm kind of putting myself first so that I can start to feel good about myself again. And I'm getting there, but no, I don't even know how anymore. Like, how do I have people sliding into my DMs all the time.
Asking this question then, okay? It's interesting. I want to see the answer. Is because everyone gives a different answer, but I'm always looking for one specific answer. And if you don't say, I'll tell you, and you'll be like, yes, it makes more sense. What do you bring to the table in a relationship? Right
now, a lot of trauma from divorce and reality TV Survivor.
Okay, fair enough. But what do you say though? Like, let's say I'm someone you want to attract. What do you bring to the table? It's like a dating session.
That's a hard question.
It's a very fucking hard question to answer because when you ask people that, they're always stumped. But there's only you could say 1,000 answers, mate, but I'm looking just for one.
I think if you allow me to be, with the caveat, like, I'll be your biggest advocate and biggest supporter. And I think that's probably one of my better qualities.
You know what, mate? I fucking love that. That's along the lines of what I'm looking for. You know what? When I ask people that question, they go, I'm financially stable, I'm attractive, I'm good in bed, I'm funny. That wasn't your first fucking thing, mate. Most people think about themselves like you didn't. You thought, I'll be your biggest supporter. I will support you. I'll be your advocate. I love you. That's what I'm looking for, effectively. That's how I know you're ready for a relationship. And that's a good thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, again, this is all through lots of therapy, lots of experiences. But, I find, I know that my purpose is to support and help others. And, when I'm with someone, I want to advocate for them. I want to be their biggest supporter. I want to protect them at all costs.
Do you know when people don't say that though?
Yeah, I know.
When people don't say that that's how like, yeah, you would be a good partner, 100%. Unless you're like going to go, I'm going to cheat on everyone in a minute. But no.
Well, no, now it's like, I'm not going to go back and be a dick again. Like I was.
It's like, to have that mentality of that's your answer. That's the perfect answer, mate. I can't fault it. And so I'll do one more question for you.
All right.
Shall we? Okay. What's just for a bit of banter? What's the worst date you've ever been on?
Ooh, there's some rough ones. There was one. God, when was this? I can't even remember. It was like 2017 maybe, and it was a Sunday afternoon date. I was not feeling it. I was polite. 2 drinks. I felt like she wasn't going to ever let me leave. And then she followed me to the train station, and it was like,
Oh, no.
I can get on the train by myself. Thank you.
No.
Yeah. And then tried to make a move, and I was just like not giving any signs that I was into it. And I felt like, out of control of what was happening. I'm like, are you going to mug me outside the train? Or are you going to molest me outside the train? Like, it was the latter.
Alone, effectively. So effectively, your game is pretty good then. If you look at it from in a silver lining, it looks like a good game.
I'm just myself. That's kind of my thing. So you can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I'm not for everybody. Like, no one's going to be for everybody, but I put out there, I'm like, here's, even in the pods, on the show, I was like, I need trust, stability, and quality time. And I know that, and I don't need a lot else. I'm very self-sufficient. But I need that. And so, you put that out there. Yeah.
Have you got, obviously before we end, you've got one question, any other question you want to ask me? It can be anything you want. I don't care.
Will you be my dating coach? No. I just am curious, like, when you look at dating and the state of dating as it is right now, what is your biggest fear or like the biggest challenge that you see? Because for me, I look at it and I'm like, people aren't making authentic connections. And I feel it's, as I said earlier, it's perpetuated by COVID, Zoom, all this stuff. I feel like people don't know how to connect anymore in real life.
I'd probably say you're right. I completely agree. It's my biggest fear for dating right now. So that's hard. There's so many different things in there. Like I said, the connection thing. People aren't, going out as much. I would probably say, God, a hard question to answer. Biggest fear for dating right now. I think of it more as an individual. I think the biggest fear is not so much as a collective, but more of an individual. What makes me really sad to think, and it really does actually make me sad, is, let's say you got a woman or a man who are generally nice human beings, right? Generally nice human beings. And they get to their later ages and they never experience true love. That makes me really sad. Do you know what I mean? Like you got like a little old lady, little old man, but she never got treated right, or he never got treated right. And I think once you find a partner who treats you the way you should be treated and loved and whatnot, then it is the best thing in the world, without a doubt, one of the best things in the world. But people don't experience that. It does actually break my heart. It's really sad.
It is sad.
And that's, to be fair, that's why I love my job, because I've helped people who've been in those scenarios and they found a partner because they took the advice. And it's so that's what I would say. It's more the individual. But it might sound a bit fucking raw, but if someone's an arsehole, I couldn't give a fuck if they find love. I don't give a shit.
I know. I hate to say that, but I feel...
I don't give a fuck. A lot of doctors, a lot of therapists or whatever, they say, no, everybody deserves love. No, you don't. It sounds really horrible, but I don't care. But
I think everyone deserves love, but I don't think everybody deserves your love.
Kind of. I think everybody deserves to be raised correctly from a child. Everybody deserves that. And that should never be taken away from anybody. But when you get to like an adulthood, right, then you can make your own choices. Let's say you've had a tough childhood, and there's some really, poor, tough times for people, which is super sad. But when you hit adulthood, and let's say this is why you're a fascinating case, but parents might be lovely for what I know, but you've been through things and you've worked on it. You know what I mean? And you become a better adult for it, which is amazing. And you generally deserve love because you put the work in, which is amazing. You seem like a genuinely nice person. Unless you go and kick a puppy in the face in a minute, I don't know about it. You seem like a real nice person.
I got one right here. I don't know.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think everybody deserves love. I don't think the person who's, let's say their parents are really nice and they treat them lovely and they had every advantage in the world, yet they still treat people like shit. I don't care if you die alone. I don't care. Yeah. But
there has to be something missing there, right? Like there has to be something in their childhood that wasn't right. Yeah.
Some people just aren't. Some people just monsters, mate. It sounds weird. It sounds a bit pessimistic, but some people don't deserve it. But some people who don't get that opportunity deserve it so much. You know what I mean? I've had clients. I'm like, I come off the phone call with them. I'm like, oh my days, I want to help you so much. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you just deserve everything you get. And it's like, and it happens, and it literally warms my heart. I love that shit. And it's like, so yeah, I'm probably the only dating coach in the world who says that. But it's true though, isn't it?
You make a good case. Yeah, you make a good case.
Like, so yeah.
So this has been so much fun. We'll have to do this again because I feel like there's so much we could talk about with dating. So tell people where they can find you, where they can find your book, and we'll put all those links in the description too.
Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Really have enjoyed it. It's been really cool. And yeah, take the relationship coaching path. I think you'd actually be fantastic at it. Like conflict relationships can be amazing. Dating coach. What am I talking about? TikTok and Instagram. Jacob Lucas 101. And my book is now available on Amazon. I'll show it again for the video. Her dating coach. The marble statue of a lady holding a phone. That's on Amazon right now. But if you go to my links in my Instagram or TikTok, it'll be on there as well. But yeah, type it into Amazon.
Perfect.
And it'll be there. But yeah, I hope anyone who reads it will, helps their love life, and I'm sure it will. I have absolutely no doubt it will. You'll find it one of the best dating guides you're ever going to read. So it's
awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for having me. I hope this has been insightful for everybody listening. So,
definitely has. I want to pick your brain so much, so we'll have to do this again.
100%. Absolutely.
Maybe
pleasure.
if I start dating again, you can ask me tough questions that I should be thinking about that I'm probably ignoring.
I generally think you would make a really nice boyfriend. I would say, if I didn't think that, I wouldn't even bother saying it, mate. I wouldn't. I'd be like, yeah, it's been a pleasure being on. Thanks a lot. But like, I genuinely think you'd make a nice boyfriend.
Thank you.
Because you have that self-inner reflection. I think your viewers are actually very lucky to listen to somebody who actually is so fucking honest, because it's quite a rare trait.
It is. But that's how you got to do it. So
real. It's real.
It is. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. This has been so much fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure.
And that concludes season 1 of Conversations with Nick Thompson. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I hope that you will be here when we come back in a few weeks with a new podcast, same style, new name, eyes wide open. We'll see you soon.